Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman. You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Good day and welcome to episode 1721. Thank you for joining me today. Before I start, because I often forget, I want to first off say thank you to all of you who have been purchasing tickets for Empowered Investor Live, our September conference coming up fast. We are, I guess, about a month and a half away, about 40 days away, 39 days away maybe, depending on how many days in the month, and the calendar is complicated. I always wondered, why can't the calendar and the time clock be on the metric system? How would that work? Let me see, we'd have 10 hours in a day, and an hour would be 100 minutes, and a month, how long would that be? Would that be 10 days? But then you got to do, it has to go with the sunrise and the sunset, and the rotation around the sun, and it probably wouldn't work. I guess maybe someone would have figured that out by now. Oh well. Anyway, Empowered Investor Live, we have got Tier 2 early bird tickets available for 6 more days. So go to empoweredinvestor.com and get your early bird tickets, early bird Tier 2. I know you missed out on Tier 1, but it's still pretty darn good. So check them out. So I've talked over the years many times, and I get this question all the time. The problem with some of these questions is that the answers are long and meandering and complex. And this question that I'd like to start out with today, this is sort of current event day. I've got some articles and things I want to share with you. This question is about investing in real estate internationally versus investing in the good old United States of America. Look, we could easily be recommending properties in many countries worldwide. And I'm an international kind of guy. Well, not lately because I've been grounded with all of this COVID craziness. But I've been to 87 countries. I love to explore. When I was a kid, I just wanted to go places. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's because I want to escape my current life or wanted to escape my childhood. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, it's just always been this sense of, I always loved boats, motorhomes, airplanes, anything that could take me somewhere else. I guess that's part of the human condition. Probably not just me, right? In fact, send us a note if any of this applies to you or you have any questions on anything we talk about. If you have any comments, criticisms, we love it all. jasonhartman.com/ask is where you go for that. But on this international investing question and the human condition of wanderlust, right? We always want to go somewhere. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do. They just want to explore. They want to see things. They want to be in someplace different. And I think part of that is this thinking that going somewhere else will somehow change things. And it doesn't really in any real significant way because, hey, guess what? We're always bringing ourselves with us. A lot of times we're bringing our spouse with us. Sometimes, and nowadays we're all so connected. We're just never really away, right? We're never really away because we're all so connected. And that obviously is good and bad at the same time. When it comes to investing in properties worldwide, there are many reasons that the good old US of A is a very, very special place. And I'm looking in an article, and this is a July 26th article, and it says, "Why the US MLS system is the envy of other countries." MLS system, meaning, of course, the multiple listing service where the real estate agents post their properties and where they find the data on properties and sell properties. And now a lot of this has been made not exactly public. What you see in the public is not the real MLS. Yes, Zillow has feeds and so forth, and Redfin, other sites, they have like some of the data, but it's not complete like the MLS system. Now, they do have some other data that's not in the MLS, but that data is still, it's kind of spotty. The MLS system, the multiple listing service, is governed by realtor associations. And with that governance, the data is cleaner. Now, I don't know that that's what we're going to talk about when we look at this article, but that's just what I'm talking about because, hey, I used to be a member of the MLS system when I was in traditional real estate for 19 years, and that career transferred over to this career many years ago. But, I know how it works because I was there. I was a top real estate agent. I worked for RE/MAX for many years. By age 24, just 4 years into my burgeoning career, RE/MAX ranked me as number 59 on planet Earth for all RE/MAX agents. At the time, I think they had about 45,000 agents. I'm sure they have, 100,000 now. I'm not sure how many. But, hey, that's pretty good for a little 24-year-old cocky kid, right? Not bad. Not bad. And adjusted for inflation, I made a heck of a lot of money. At the time, it was a lot too, but heck, adjusted for inflation, then you have the accurate comparison. Because what is the question? Compared to what? That's always the question. Okay, anyway, so when we compare investing in the U.S. to investing internationally, there are many things to consider. And by the way, we have a whole bunch of other things to talk about. This is just the first topic today. One of them is the transparency of the process, of the closing process, meaning closing on the property. The title process, how the title records are kept. How easy is it to transfer property? And how transparent is that entire process? Or how opaque is it, right? It's very difficult in many countries, and it's very opaque in many countries, and it's very costly in many countries. The U.S. has a really good process for that. Now, that even differs state to state. We do business nationwide. Heck, in California, where most of my career was in traditional real estate and so forth, very different than it is in other states we do business in now. But it's still conceptually the same. And you have good rule of law in the U.S., good governance. But how about before you get to the closing process? Before you want to transfer title from one buyer to another, what is that like? Well, let's take a look at it, because the first thing you need is you need information, right? You need data availability. And most of that data comes from the good old MLS system. And these are so fragmented around the world in different countries. It's absolutely crazy that they don't have a system like ours. And I guess I understand why, but it could easily be fixed in these other countries, right? But it's just not. So we're going to get on to many other things, but let me just talk to you about this for a second, because I think it's important that people really appreciate how good the U.S. system is. Now, there's many other reasons that the U.S. is better for real estate investing. It's a very special real estate market. Of course, the lending environment, very mature, very good, and subsidized by the government. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welfare for real estate investors. It's not bad at all. Not bad at all. You've been paying taxes. You might as well get some of it back through these government-sponsored entities like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Okay, the article. Let's get back. Why the U.S. MLS system is the envy of other countries. The article says, I've been following the discussion around the competitiveness, cost, and consumer benefits of the U.S. multiple listing service by trying to disparage the system. As an Irish immigrant to the United States in 1996 who became a real estate broker in 2000, I can tell you this. The U.S. system has long been and still is viewed as the best by consumers around the world. You don't have to look very far for examples that illustrate why. This past December, my mother, now this is not me talking, this is the author of the article, Colin Mullane is his name, okay? This past December, my mother and father closed on their home of 35 years in Limerick, Ireland. Hey, I've been to Limerick, Ireland. Pretty cool. After 10 months in escrow. Yeah, 10 months. And by the way, note that that was not a new construction home. They lived in it for 35 years. It wasn't because of construction it took 10 months. Okay, they also recently closed on their purchase of a new home. In the process, they had to rent a home for 4 months in between their sale and their purchase, given simultaneous closings are not a practice there. In the U.S., we do that all the time. By the way, I'm adding some to this article, so hopefully you see where I'm embellishing, where I'm reading, right? Hey, that's just me. That's the way I do it. Okay. That kind of drawn-out timetable is typical for the majority of Western nations that use auctioneer system where the seller works with one, perhaps two, auctioneers. The cost and other headaches also add up. The auctioneer typically charges 1.5% fee to the seller. My parents paid a 1% fee to the solicitor required to handle the transaction. I guess that's the attorney, right? They paid 1% transfer tax called the stamp duty, which can be 2 or 3% depending on the sales price. Also assessed on the final sales price, right? And they paid a 1% fee to the solicitor for the purchase. Solicitors are legally required when purchasing a home in Ireland. So I guess in Ireland, you can't do it yourself. All right? We've got some clients and listeners in Ireland, so hey, tell us what you think. jasonhartman.com/ask. We'd love to hear from you. All in all, my parents paid 1.5% in fees. They also had to pay for the brokerage sign outside their home, newspaper advertising, online ads, and the brochures for potential buyers, and that home rental in between the closings, an additional $6,400. So I guess in Ireland it's customary for not the broker to pay for the advertising. Well, I guess they didn't have a broker. They had a solicitor. Now, I think that's more of like a legal person, like an attorney, right? I know those names change around the world, so I'm not sure. But look, the bottom line is the U.S. has a smooth running, and I know you probably don't feel that way, but the question is, compared to what? Compared to what? It's always the question. Compared to other countries, transferring real estate in the U.S. is a breeze. It is a cakewalk, okay? And the title records are available for inspection. The chain of title is known and understood and insured. And don't get me started on title insurance, which I think is a complete racket. But everything is a racket. That's just compared to what, right? It's a racket. Everything's a racket, right? It's just a great system. The U.S. has a very special real estate market. Okay, now, sister cities. Let's change our topic here. Let's talk about sister cities. During the pandemic, I predicted back in mid-February of 2020, before you heard it anywhere else, you heard it here first from yours truly. Yes, I predicted that there would be a mass migration to suburban markets. And by golly, as soon as the lockdowns lifted the first time around, whoo, Mass migration. Mass migration nation. Yes, absolutely was just so pronounced. It was like the Grapes of Wrath 2020 from John Steinbeck's novel. I've made that comparison many times. And it is continuing. Then I later, and I don't have an exact time frame for this, but I later made another prediction. And my other prediction was that there would be a double move, like, well, I don't want to say concentric circles, because not like that. But just think of it almost like concentric circles, in that the first move people would make, and by the way, America, speaking when we're comparing internationally, is a very, very mobile country. The population here moves. It is not like other countries. I mean, in Europe, it's a stagnant market. Those houses are owned. I mean, look, the Irish people, 35 years in the house. Not that that doesn't happen in the U.S. It's just not common here. You know, the typical person in the U.S. stays about 7 years in their house. But I made the prediction that the people would first make one move to get out of urban environments, and they'd move to surrounding suburban environments. But then they would realize, after moving to those surrounding suburban environments, so maybe they lived in New York City, and of course, you know, we did shows on it, how many people went to the Hamptons, but of course, you got to be pretty rich to go to the Hamptons, okay? That's not inexpensive. And, you know, they'd move to New Jersey, or they'd move to some nearby suburban market, and that was a hedging strategy. So they thought, okay, if this whole thing blows over, and everybody's back to work, and my employer needs me to come back and work in the city, you know, maybe it'll be 2 days a week in the office, and yeah, the commute's a little long, but I can do it if it's only a couple days. So we're going to live somewhat close by. But my prediction was that they would make that first move, and then people would realize that they can work almost anywhere, especially if it's in the same time zone, or maybe a 1 hour time zone difference. Now, for me, I changed my time zone by 3 hours, moving from the west to the east. I'm an East Coast guy now. I don't have an accent like an East Coast person, do I? Well, depends where you are on the East Coast, obviously. And so they are realizing, and will continue to realize, that they can work pretty much anywhere. And so then people will make a second move. And that second move will lower their cost of living substantially more than the first move did. And it will help flatten the country in terms of the talent pool. Think about it. And this is not new information, I talked about it last year, but haven't talked about it lately, so let me remind you. Thomas Friedman wrote these couple of books on this topic. The World is Flat, maybe, 20 years ago or something, right? And Friedman's got his own problems. He's, clueless about some stuff. But, conceptually, with the world is flat concept, he's right on in a lot of ways. Not every way, but, it was a good thesis, and I think it's valid. But what is happening within the country, within the United States, is it is flattening out. And I don't mean like Texas and Florida, flat as a pancake, versus the Rocky Mountains, which are beautiful. And hey, I love John Denver, so, Rocky Mountain High. I don't live there, but when I go to Aspen, I sure do appreciate it. I love the mountains. And I live in flat Florida, where the highest elevation spot in Florida, do you know what it is? Do you know what, this is a tangent alert, by the way. Do you know what the highest elevation spot in Florida is? Can you guess? Do you know? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, the highest elevation in the entire state of Florida, check me on this, 340 feet above sea level. Yeah, that's what we call a mountain in Florida, 340 feet. And the highest elevation in my county, Palm Beach County, is like 80 feet above sea level. I mean, wow. You can be much higher in a high-rise condo than you can on any piece of land in Florida. Okay, so there'll be this second move. People will make the second move when they realize, hey, I can work anywhere. And by the way, of course, people have been changing jobs like crazy. This is like the great American quitting epidemic that's going on, right? And I don't know if you've read about that in the media or paid attention to the stats, but like everybody is reworking their life. It's absolutely crazy what's going on. So John Burns, the real estate consultant who's been on the show several times, and so have many of his consultants and researchers, they did a piece on the rise of sister cities. And I just want to share some of this with you because I think it's pretty interesting when you look at what we do. Now, I'm not saying that all of these markets would be good. Most of them wouldn't. Most of them are profiling sort of the higher profile cities. Even when you go to the sister city, it's still too expensive many times. But this is interesting because it gives you the concept conceptually. A lot of these sister cities aren't even necessarily linear markets. Of course, there are three types of markets: linear, cyclical, and hybrid. We like the linear markets, and a lot of those linear markets have become hybrid. I doubt that'll hold for the long term, so they'll sort of regress back to linear markets as they once were. Some won't. We'll see. That remains to be seen. But the point is, look at the price differences. This is what's telling about the Burns article. So let's take Seattle, right? Seattle and Tacoma. The price gap, the difference here, a new home, the price gap is $167,000, and a resale home, $304,000. Cleveland and Canton, Ohio, right? $80,000 price gap on a new home, $15,000 on a resale home. New York and Philadelphia. I mean, folks, what is the Jason Hartman question? Compared to what? That's the Jason Hartman question. Well, that's what we're doing. We're doing compared to what, right? We're comparing these sister cities to what we'll call maybe the primary city, right? Well, let's look at New York and Philadelphia. For a new home in New York versus Philadelphia, now, I don't think I need to tell you which one's more and less expensive in each example. You probably figured that out. New York is more than Philadelphia. Cleveland is more than Canton. Seattle's more than Tacoma. Yada, yada, yada. You got it, right? New York and Philadelphia. $438,000 difference on a new home. On a resale home, the gap is $236,000. How about the East Bay and Stockton, California, right? So there, that's very pronounced because the East Bay is like super expensive, okay? The price gap, $273,000 on a new home, and on a resale home, it is a whopping $559,000. Whoa! Wow! How about this one? Los Angeles versus Bakersfield. New home, $433,000 price gap. Resale home, $550,000. So $9,000 less than East Bay and Stockton versus LA and Bakersfield. Okay, how about Phoenix and Tucson? New home, $40,000. Resale home price gap, $102,000. By the way, Ricky Ricardo said to Lucy, "You got some splaining to do. Let me explain something for you." Here's the thing. On the new home price gap, it's probably a little deceiving. Because one of the things that's very deceiving about new homes, new home builders, which I think it's really wrong, is that all of the prices, which I just think are like false advertising. You go and look on any home builder website or call them up and, they'll say, "We've got homes starting at $600,000. But you can't really buy a home for $600,000 in that example, because you will be forced to add a whole bunch of things to it, not the least of which is lot premium, which is 100% forced, but a whole bunch of other upgrades. And even if you're not forced to add them, they're just sort of expected things, many of them, in a basic house. So you're going to add $70,000 to $120,000, $150,000 to that $600,000 home. Now, this is not a rental property, of course, we're talking about, but like a home someone might live in, an owner-occupied home. That's why this may not be completely accurate when he talks about the new home price gap, because it is somewhat surprising to me that the resale home price gaps in several of these areas, not all of them, sometimes it flips, there's nuances to everything, of course, that the resale price gaps are actually most of the time higher than the new home price gaps, which I would almost think that'd probably be the other way around, but it's not. And I think it's because they're using the new home advertised base price, aka false advertising, teaser ad, loss leader, whatever you want to call it, right? So take it for what it's worth. But the concept is still true. Conceptually, it's still true. Okay, how about Denver versus Colorado Springs? New home, the price gap, $89,000. Resale, $150,000. How about Dallas versus Fort Worth? Well, this one's interesting. New home price gap, measly $1,000. A measly $1,000. Resale home price gap, $66,000. That just tells me that they're not adding in all of the stuff on a new home that you pretty much everybody adds in. You've got to add in. Let's go to my area, right near where I live. How about West Palm Beach versus sister city, Port St. Lucie? New home price gap, $131,000. Resale price gap, $143,000. So there you have it. The point being, overall, forget about all that. People can have a better quality of life and a lower cost of living by getting out of some of these highly urbanized areas that have become much less desirable. Of course, what are the reasons? Well, civil unrest, BLM riots, looting, right? Businesses that have been run out of town and will not come back because they simply can either will not be able to get or will not be able to afford the insurance rates to reopen. And the risk of contagion. The two biggest areas for transferring a contagious disease, of course, mass transit and elevators, right? Those two things, mass transit and elevators being high risk areas. All right, so we've got other stuff to go over, but let's save that till the next episode and wrap it up for today. Be sure to join us for Empowered Investor Live. I am so excited about this event. By the time we hold this event in mid-September, it will be our first live event in almost 2 years. 2 years. It's in Orlando. Easy flights, inexpensive flights to Orlando. We've got a beautiful resort hotel, a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, incredibly low room rate with our room block of only $169 per night. I recommend everybody book an extra day on either side of the trip. Have a little vacation. Bring your family if you wish. Enjoy the theme parks, Disney World, Epcot Center, Universal Studios, whatever. It's just going to be a great time, and we're going to have a lot of fun, do a lot of learning. And remember, on Friday, we have got a property tour. So there's a property tour included with this event. That's very rare. Property tour on Friday, and then our conference will be all day Saturday and Sunday, and it's just going to be a great event. So get your tickets at empoweredinvestor.com. Thanks for joining us today. Happy investing. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.